for appearing before us once again. I'd like to discuss with you today wage growth, or maybe I should put it better, lack of wage growth. The Federal Reserve tracks wage growth as a measure of economic progress and inflation. Over the past 8 years, wage growth has been largely stagnant, although fortunately we've seen a few positive trends in the last few months. But I also want to look back beyond just the last few years, starting in the 1970s, and I think we have a graphic that will display this. Wages for workers with college degrees has increased, while wages for workers without college degrees have declined. For workers with less than a college degree, wages have declined by 17%, all in inflation-adjusted terms. Could you comment on what's driving the recent wage growth, but also what's behind this phenomenon we see on the chart behind me?
Well, over long periods of time, the general average nationwide trend in wage growth depends on productivity growth. And in recent years, productivity growth has been relatively depressed in comparison, say, with a very long period from, say, 1949 to 2005. Productivity growth was probably a percentage point or so higher than it's been subsequently. For different groups in the economy, as your chart focuses on, changes in wage growth depend on structural trends in the labor market and in the economy. And what we've seen, importantly, because of technological change that has raised the return to skill, raised the demand for skilled workers, and raised the rewards to people who are able to use technology, I think coupled with globalization that has made it easier to offshore or outsource jobs that involve routine work that can be done elsewhere or is subject to technological change. We've seen different trends for much faster wage growth for higher skilled individuals and much slower wage growth for those who are less skilled. The gap between the earnings of college educated and high school educated or less individuals continues to grow, and this has been a major source of the trends that you are describing in your chart.
We have seen some improvement in recent months. Do you care to venture an assessment of why we're seeing that?
So the labor market is pretty tight, and wage growth has picked up somewhat. For example, average hourly earnings were up 2.5% in the 12 months ending in January, and that would compare with around 2% from 2011 to 2015. Some other measures are rising somewhat faster. There's not a dramatic increase in wage growth in recent years. There's some evidence of a pickup, but not dramatic. In part, I think you're seeing a reflection of a healthy labor market, tight labor market conditions, but the fact that it remains so low is also related to weak productivity growth in the U.S. economy.
And what's been contributing to a tighter labor market?
Well, we've had, we're trying to do our job, and we've put in place conditions intended to lower the unemployment rate, improve labor market conditions. You have seen the unemployment rate come down. The pace of job growth really is strong and exceeds what's probably sustainable in the longer run, and the labor market has continued in a general sense to improve, although clearly the gains are not evenly distributed among different segments of the population.
If the labor market were to continue to tighten through both more economic growth, but also say through a gradual reduction in the number of unskilled and low-skilled immigrants or guest workers that we're bringing into our country, would we see continued wage growth, in particular for those with a high school degree or less?
So I'm not certain. I mean, I expect the labor market to continue to improve somewhat further. We have to be careful not to allow conditions to become so tight that we push inflation above our 2% objective, and we will be attentive to that, but I do expect somewhat stronger labor
Is that
conditions.
a serious risk at the time when the workforce participation rate is still at a relatively elevated level?
So the workforce participation rate has been trending down.
But historically, it's still high.
It's relatively high, but it is over time going to be trending down. And immigration has been an important source of labor force growth. So that would be reduced if immigration were to diminish.
Thank you.